Broadcasting live from Takanuma, abandoned mire on the plain of Kamigawa. This is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome everybody to Tap Tap Concede. My name is Graham. Joining me is Cameron and Nelson. And today we're talking about a whole bunch of different stuff, which we will get to very shortly after reminding you, of course, that this show is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Please check out cardkingdom.com/LRR for all of your card buying needs. They've got great prices, excellent customer service, and exceedingly fast shipping. And they'll ship it to you anywhere in the world. And you can tell them, loading ready run sent me, button please, and they'll give you a little 1-inch button, which currently still says, hi roll, I'm dead. And more buttons to come. And of course, this show and everything we do is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. So, there's been a whole crate of new Secret Lairs just fallen upon us, and we'll talk about those nearer to the end of the show. And a couple strange like sidebar stories about, you know, vaguely, I guess we could put it under the umbrella of finance. But first, let's just talk about Kamigawa Limited in general. You know, we're another week into it. How are you enjoying the format so far?
Still really love it, even though I'm continuing my tradition of opening like 4 red rares and having a grand total of 5 red cards in my pool.
Oh, like in sealed?
Yeah. It's the heart. Ask me about the heartbreak of sealed pool.
I opened one last night. I opened a sealed pool that the rares. I'm actually just going to pull it up so I can make sure that I get this right. The rares were right. Kotose, the Silent Spider, and Satoru Umezawa. So both of the Demir colored rares. And then the other 4 were like Boros, like Kyodai, the 3/3 Flash Dragon.
Okay.
Fable that which was Taken Dragon, yeah.
Yeah, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Goro, and March of Otherworldly Light. So it's like, okay, so I'm either blue-black or red-white, but not both. It's like I'm not splashing some of this. Ended up in the red-white because the black in this particular pool was very bad. But boy, have you just fallen even more in love with the life of Toshiro Umezawa?
It's very good.
It's so efficient.
I know, and like bouncing it back with a ninjutsu creature. Although it does have a little bit of difficulty getting in there. I guess players have wised up to leaving sagas unblocked.
Yeah, it was a real first week play, right? We're at time of recording, it's day 9 since the arena release. So yeah, everyone's kind of getting used to the common extra value tricks or whatever, right? Like if you attack with Life of Toshiro and another 3/3, they're like, no, we'll just trade my 3/2 for this saga. That's the better play.
Yes, yeah.
What else was I going to say? I played in the Midweek Magic event, which Nelson, I saw you talk about.
Yeah, I saw the description. Like I read the description for Midweek Magic, and it just wasn't covered. So it was left up to interpretation. That's totally fine. You get 1 draft entry; it's free, and then you play as many games as you want, and then you get some small prizes, like you always do with Midweek Magic. It's free to play, and there's a small prize. Yeah. But from the description, I thought maybe we get to resign like a normal draft queue, and then just jump back in and keep trying different draft strategies. I thought they were going to let us do that for 2 or 3 days, just like stress test the bot draft.
That would have been sweet.
And no prizes, but just let us phantom draft like 100 times for the first couple days, a week into the set. And I thought that would be not... Like, I don't think it would break the arena economy or anything. You know, like, people play the matches to get prizes. Like, there might be some people who, if you had that option all the time, they would just never play a single game. They would just draft and be like, it's a 7, you know, and then they would resign and play again. But I think my usual plan would be draft, and then play one game. And if I was like, okay, confirmed this deck was broken, it was really good, or it was really bad, then resign immediately and play another one. But I would definitely play one game every time just to confirm my suspicions.
Yeah.
But if it was in the middle, I'd be like, okay, let's play this out. Let's get to 2 wins with this deck, or at least let's play 3 games with this deck, because I was relying on a synergy and I want to play until I get both cards in at the same time and to find out how good that was. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like that would be like a cool short-term gift to the players that wouldn't break the bank or anything. So I was slightly disappointed.
The event, just to be clear, was that a Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Phantom bot draft. So you don't get to keep any of the cards, and you're not drafting with other people, but then you just play until you get sick of it. And if you get 3 wins, then you get like a card and then another card, and then the grand prize for 3 wins was a random cosmetic from all of Arena that you don't have. I got a borderless Kaya the Inexorable. Random.
I got full border Norika Yamazaki.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I just played a bunch of it because I was like, I'm just going to keep playing games of draft that have absolutely no stakes, because I drafted like a red-black artifacts deck, which, by the way, the red-black artifacts deck is a fun deck in this format.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So, Oni Cult Anvil, that's the signpost uncommon for the deck. It's very cool. So it's 2 mana, 3. Yeah. So it's black red for an artifact. Whenever one or more artifacts you control leave the battlefield during your turn, you make a 1/1 colorless construct, and that only happens once per turn. And then tap and sack an artifact. Oni Called Anvil deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. So I was in situations where, like, facing this deck, I had a situation where my opponent was just like, we were at like a deadlock, but every turn they would just sack their construct to their anvil, and so they just make another construct and drain me for 1, right? Which is just like a simple thing. But also, they had like Sokenzan Smelter, which is a 2/2 goblin that at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can pay 1 and sack an artifact to make a 3/1 artifact with trample and haste.
Does it have trample? I think
Maybe
it just has haste.
Maybe it just has 3/1 with haste.
But the smelter doesn't say non-token.
Yes. So, and they had the Tawashi Song Shaper, which is the 2/2 for 1 and a red, that whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+0.
The DJ.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, is it Sokenzan Smelter? Maybe it's a different name for it.
I think that's right. Isn't it Sokenzan Smelter?
I'm not sure. It's a red 2/2 goblin. Yeah, Sokenzan Smelter. Yeah. 1 and a red 2/2 goblin artificer. Yeah. Yes, the construct only has haste. So it was like they go to combat, they sack this 1/1 from the Oni Cult Anvil. They get a 3/1 that enters the battlefield. The Oni Cult Anvil replaces the 1/1 that enters the battlefield. So the Song Shaper's a 4/2. This 3/1's also attacking me. Then they can like do something with their anvil to drain me for 1, or like if I block 1, then they sack it with the anvil to drain me. Like, it was just this ridiculous, like,
this rules.
Yeah, no, it was sweet. It's a very, very cool deck. Rabbit Battery is a much stronger card than it looks. This is a single mana for a 1/1 haste artifact creature equipment rabbit. And the equipped creature gets +1/+1. Importantly, the equipped creature gets +1/+1 and haste.
Okay, yeah.
So you're, as the game goes on, you're just like, play this creature, put a rabbit on it, hit you with it.
Yeah, haste is like a little better in this format than I can generally remember it being in other formats, or maybe it's just that this is like a better enabler than we've usually seen.
Rabbit Battery punches high above its weight.
Yeah, the call time equipment that gave haste, or the throne one. Like, I believe there's a 2nd mana in there somewhere. Did call time have 1 red equipment, 1 red to attach haste? There's been Boots of Speed and AFR too.
Yeah.
But this one's better than all of those, because it's also just a 1/1. Yeah.
So it can also just attack on turn 1. And then there's also the Patchwork Automaton, which is a 2 mana 1/1 artifact creature with Ward 2. And whenever you cast an artifact spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So you've got that and the Tawashi Song Shaper. Now, importantly, these are different effects. Patchwork is when you cast an artifact. Tawashi Song Shaper is when an artifact enters the battlefield. So they don't always trigger at the same time. But either / both of those combined with Reinforced Ronin, which is the 2/2 for 1 red with like kind of automatic dash that like it's got haste, but at the end of turn you return it to your hand.
Dash
right?
only.
Yeah, but then you can channel it later. So it's like you just keep playing an artifact every turn and make your other creatures larger. Like it is a highly synergistic deck.
Yeah, I need to go and put this together. Actually,
getting to play Patchwork Reinforced Ronin is pretty fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. And then there's other stuff like Runaway Trashbot, but that only works on creatures in your graveyard, so it's like not as good. But like
you're playing it.
Circuit Mender is an artifact that's just very good. Iron Apprentice, it's the 1/1 for 1 that when it's the Star Pupil, right? It's 1/1 for 1 that when it dies, you put its counter on something else. Papercraft Decoy, when it leaves play, you pay 2 and draw a card is okay. But yeah,
right.
It's very, very cool. I was just looking through the artifacts and it reminded me, I saw, actually, more relevant for most people, Ninja's Kunai. Talk about an equipment or any card punching way above its weight.
This card is better than it looked.
It's way better than it looks. 1 mana artifact equipment, 1 mana to equip. The equipped creature has for 1 mana and tap and sacrifice the Kunai. It deals 3 damage to any target.
But in this set, it's so much better than like a sorcery for 3 mana that says like tap a creature, deal 3 damage to something. I mean, that sounds pretty bad anyway.
Yeah.
But putting that in colorless is like not that bad. Like say there was a Strixhaven, lesson that was 3 generic, tap a creature you control, deal 3 damage to any target. That would probably be playable still. But the fact that you're modifying things and you're casting an artifact and you have an extra artifact in play that might have some flexibility in this red-black deck, so nice.
That's the thing, is that it's small, it modifies a creature. Compare it to Silver Bolt from Midnight Hunt, which was 1 to cast and then 3 to deal 3 damage. Also, this goes face.
Yeah, it goes face. Buffs Trashbot at instant speed.
Yeah, it does too, you're right.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah. And then briefly, I just wanted to tell a tale, because I know that Cam would appreciate it, of I think I posted about this on our Slack, actually, but I was watching Kenji stream, and his poor opponent, had Mech Titan Core. Which is it's the 2/4 vehicle for 2, and for 5 mana, and then you exile the Mech Titan Core and 4 other artifacts. Artifact creatures and or vehicles you control, not just
Moxes. You can't just exile your Moxes.
And then you create the Mech Titan, which is the legendary 10/10. It's got Flying, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, and Haste. And when that token leaves the battlefield, you return all the other cards that you exiled with it, except the core, to the battlefield. So 5 mana, exile the Mech Titan Core, exile 4 other things. That is an ability that could be countered with the Crab. So Kenji kept up Crab mana. This is Mirror Shell Crab, is it?
That sounds right.
Yeah, channel for 2 and a blue, discard Mirror Shell Crab, counter target spell or ability, unless its controller pays 3. So his opponent exiled Mech Titan Core, exiled 4 other artifact creatures, and that was it. They just went away.
And that's not even the only common blue answer to Mech Titan Core. Like the Completion will also do it.
That's true.
In white at common, you have the Intercessor's Arrest. So those are probably the 3 best ones.
It can be beaten.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, those 3 cards even beat it without them having a chance to kind of get anything back. Oh, right. There's a second white one too. It's just more mana intensive. If you have the Moth Rider Patrol, you can pay for. And I've lost my Mech Titan Core or my Mech Titan token has like lost a game to both of those white commons now. The Crab might be the most stylish one, so props to Kenji for getting in there with the Crab Claws.
It's just because the thing doesn't resolve and everything just goes away, and it's like,
it's maybe the most debilitating. Whereas if there's one of the enchantments on it, or the enemy stabbing down the creature, you're like, okay, I can draw my enchantment removal. I can kill that 1/1. It's just a 1/1. We're gonna get through this. Whereas the countering the ability is like, all my stuff is in the exile zone.
Yeah. I just paid 5 mana to throw all that stuff away.
Yeah. No, that's brutal.
And the Crab is just like in the graveyard with a knife,
It's true.
Speaking of cool vehicles, and also stuff that maybe are better than they looked initially, high-speed hover bike is an interesting one. It's 2-2 vehicle for 2 with flash and flying. It's only crew 1. Cam, as you vigorously nodding. When high-speed hover bike enters the battlefield, tap up to 1 target creature. Have you experienced either side of this?
Oh yeah, I've gotten people with this.
Slaps roof of hover bike. You can fit so many ninjas in here.
Yeah, it just like battle against the clown intensifies. Right, whenever this gets passed to me.
Mm-hmm. That's sweet.
Yeah, always sleeving this up.
Nice.
I just watched Adam this morning draft 3 of them, and his chat was like, "How many hover bikes is too many?" And everyone was like, "No, just cut every other vehicle before this one," because he was going kind of blue-white vehicles. Or no, sorry, black-white. He had a grease fang, right?
We drafted a deck yesterday on LRR MTG that had 2 Satoru Umezawas.
Whoa.
And all we wanted to do was ninjutsu in a walking skyscraper.
Did you have the skyscraper?
Yeah,
Nice.
that's all we wanted to do. We didn't quite get there. We did ninjutsu in a mirror shell crab, which was a big surprise.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I just lost a game last night to my opponent's Satoru because I wasn't respecting this possibility. In the first week, I had Satoru once, and I played against at least 2 opponents that had Satoru, and it just seemed like, okay, you can draft this card, and you can play it in a blue-black ninjas / value deck, but actually saving mana and having a really dramatic play with Satoru's ability seemed pretty rare. It was more about like getting the trigger where you draw one of the cards off the top 3, or having the option to ninjutsu in creatures that don't normally have ninjutsu, and like that's super cool because then you get their ETBs mid combat. But I hadn't run into they put in a giant thing until last night when I was just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to block. I don't need to make that block. I'm not going to trade here. I'm going to have like lethal in 2 turns if I keep my creature alive because my creatures have menace or something. And then first they put in the colossal sky turtle. They like put their network disruptor back in their hand for 4 mana, and I'm getting hit for 6 flying, and it has ward 2. And then the next turn they put in the crab. Yeah, it was the 5/7. I was like, okay, they did that once, but the rest of their deck is going to be like boring 4 drops and under. Like, we're going to be okay. We're going to attack them down to 1 here. We've got 1 chump left. We're not going to die. And then sure enough, yeah, crab for lethal. So that was pretty funny.
Crab
Like,
for
I love
lethal.
the idea of the skyscraper, right? There's just like a vector glider or something perched on top of a building, and you're like, watch out for that thing. And you're like, the vector glider, it hits for 2. Not so much, right? And you just get struck by this limb that's made out of like a Starbucks.
Yeah. Little did you know, after Satoru went to school, he taught the whole school, the building itself, how to do ninjutsu.
Yeah.
Long skyscraper.
The School of Ninjutsu. This is it.
Yeah, the 3rd floor.
School.
Yeah, the 3rd and 8th floor of the walking skyscraper are actually a ninjutsu academy.
Yeah, like this
Turns
floors. Well, I mean, like floors 7 through 8 are luxury condos, and then the ground floor is like, cafes and small shopping districts. I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
It should surprise no one to know, considering how high I was on Skyscanner, that Searchlight Companion, I think, is just a really good card that should get in most decks.
Yes, I agree.
3 mana, 1/1 flyer, ETB, you get a 1/1 spirit. The spirit is not an artifact.
No.
Which is important to know for a variety of interactions.
If it was, it would be a way higher pick.
Yeah, but the Searchlight Companion absolutely is.
I love this in ninjutsu decks.
Yeah.
Right, like I think this is a very good ninjutsu enabler.
It's also pretty good in vehicle decks because there's a bunch of crew 1, so you can like keep the flyer around, for later, chump with the other 1/1 while you're getting in with your
with like
your
Dragonfly
3/2 flying
suit
or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
And I've managed to get 2 or even 3 for 1s with Seismic Wave.
Ooh. Yeah, I've only had that once.
2 in a red instant, deals 2 damage to any target.
Any target.
Any target. So it can also go face. And 1 damage to each non-artifact, which is a really important line, creature target opponent controls. So all their spirits, any X1s, any of the tiny ninjas, if they've got like, I don't know, like Coiling Stalker and Moon Circuit Hacker, just punch them in the face for 2 and kill both their creatures. Pretty good for 3 mana. if they do have, like some spirits and say the Searchlight Companion, you target the Searchlight Companion with the 2 damage because that can hit anything. Because it won't die to the second half of this effect. So, you got to sort of, it's like you have to sort of like craft your thing and be like, okay, hang on. It's not going to kill the rabbit battery, but if I target the rabbit battery, then I can take out that other X1 over there, But yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's I don't actually know if it gets in like every deck, but I'm probably going to play it anytime I get it, and I'm playing red.
Yeah, I mean, how much are you willing to pay for a shock?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's important. Yeah, before we move on from this card, it's important to remember that not only can the spell go face for 2 damage to your opponent, it can also just target one of their creatures that's not an artifact, and then that creature will take 3 because the damage will be dealt twice if it.
Oh, right.
Which is a mode that I didn't even realize after going through a whole tournament with it. But then my opponent killed my 4/3. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's what's happening here. I was just using it to be like 2 damage is either going to the face or it's killing your artifact creature. And then the other damage is going everywhere else. But if they just have like...
Right. If they just have 1 3 toughness creature, you can just kill it.
Exactly. So... Now if you didn't realize that. And there's a bunch this is a very complicated set. Obviously, it's more words than any other set in Magic cards. But that's another one of the little tricks. I've been drafting a lot of ninjas. I had one deck with 6 Moon Circuit Hackers, so I chose that as my background today. And I guess I did draft original Kamigawa, but not a ton. And I've just never really understood as deeply as I do now the ins and outs of ninjutsu, just like how powerful it is. As long as you've got one more ninja in your hand, then your ninja's on the battlefield. You can buy them back. Like if one of your other ninjas is unblocked, you can get it back in your hand. And then you can also do it end of combat, which we talked about in a bit in the PPR, but it's actually really good to do that. Like switch which one is in hand after you've gotten the combat damage to player trigger from it. Then after combat, you're like, okay, a different tapped creature. This costs a bunch of mana, but it was wild to me how relevant using ninjutsu at both opportunities was. And sometimes even, like if you take Moon Snare Specialist into the late game, if you have a Moon Snare Specialist and another ninja that can come down for cheap, like the Moon Circuit Hacker, even just like paying 4 mana mid-combat to like flicker it and bounce their creatures or bounce one of your other into play, benefit creatures like it to rebuy another creature from your hand. If you've got the mana for it, you can just keep ninjutsuing. Whereas like in my head, I had only ever thought, well, yeah, after they block, you can put one of your ninjas into play and then the attacker comes back. And that's all there is to it, right? Like that's the judge video or like, how does this ability work? Intro sales pitch. But the sort of second level of ninjutsu is like, well, any creature that's been unblocked, is a valid enabler for your ninjutsus in hand, and you're not going to run out of ninjas if you're bouncing ninjas back to your hand, right? So you can just keep putting your mana into that and keep getting these benefits.
I don't know if you have to do full control on Arena to do this. You probably do.
They fixed it, yeah. So to get the end of combat one, I think you do now. You just want to click on your little explosion icon in the bottom if you want to ninjutsu again after damage. But right now, after blockers, there's always a stop on your turn.
Yes, no, I know that. But yeah, because I did see, again, I watched a lot of Kenji's draft. I did see him do exactly what you said of like ninja in the Moon Circuit Hacker, draw the card, and then after damage but still in combat, flash in Moon Snare Specialist and bounce something.
Right. So it feels so weird to be paying mana not to like get the creature in to deal damage, but
it's such a wide open design space and has so much potential, and Moon Snare Specialist is such a outstanding way of learning ninjutsu.
Yeah.
Right. Like this card is a clinic in how to run this mechanic.
So I've also been playing Kotose for my last couple drafts. Kotose was my first pick. You mentioned you just had them in sealed, and the first one I tried to mostly go blue back. I might have splashed for a card or two, but the second one, it was like Kotose first pick into 2 Gloom Shriekers. We have some ninjas just to like rebuying Kotose is great, rebuying Gloomtrigger is great, but most of the deck is just kind of like Sultai value engine with like the turtle at the top. And then the other card that like has really grown in value for me is Geothermal Kami.
Oh yeah. Oh, I had an absolutely miserable game on stream yesterday that I'll talk about afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
You can go ahead. I just wanted to say,
Sure.
like, this rebuys your sagas if you just want the first 2 chapters of sagas, and then like the creature's not doing anything, just like your Life of Toshiro we were talking about earlier. Gains 3 life in a pinch if you need it. You can just bounce your 1-mana Snake Ninja, your Death Touch Fang of Shigeki that's in most of your green decks.
Yeah.
Or, the dream obviously is bouncing Gloom Shrieker, and then you just need to get the Geothermal Kami killed, which usually will happen profitably. Like attacking for 4 obviously feels good. And it trades with more stuff. It'll trade with 3 2s or 3 1s or whatever because it only has 3 toughness. But then you're into that. You just get it back with your Gloom Shrieker, and you've got this kind of life gain, constant grind going at your opponent. Slow, but you never run out of gas.
Yeah. So the Geothermal Kami, it's 3 and a green for at worst a 4/3. Just sits there. But when it enters the battlefield, you may return an enchantment you control to its owner's hand. If you do, you gain 3 life. And so our opponent yesterday had 2 Azusa's Many Journeys.
Okay.
And at least 2 Geothermal Kamis. And I feel like it's the only spells they cast. Because they probably gained, I don't know, like
12 life or
more
16, 21 life. Yeah.
Something like that over the course of the game. Because they were like, they journey, and then they returned it, and then a Kami, and returned it again, and played it. So that's like the 6. Yeah, it was like 18 life, I think, maybe. Nice. It was so much. It was like that and a story weave to make their Azusa, to make their memory of Azusa into like a 5/5 to smash us was just about like, yeah, it was weird. It was like, how are we losing to this? They're not doing anything. They're just sitting there gaining life and like hitting us for 4 occasionally. Wait, we're at 0? What happened? Like it was very strange.
I like it.
Good stuff though.
I like it a lot.
I like this format. This format's sweet.
Yeah, I don't know. Ninjas and sagas are just like exactly where I want Magic to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty fun bouncing your saga with your ninjas for sure.
Yeah.
I want to talk about another card that I think we did notice it doing things during the PPR, or we probably acknowledged it in the first couple days of the format, but it's really shone in the intervening week. It's Imperial Subduer. I think this is the most important common if you're going to get into this Samurai Exalted deck.
Speaking of frustrating.
Yeah, so 2 generic and a white, 3 mana for a 3/2, fine stats. Whenever a Samurai where you control attacks alone, tap target creature you don't control. And so you can draft a deck that'll have like a bunch of these when a creature attacks alone triggers. I think this is the most important one at common. Combines well with like the next most important card for your deck usually is Tempered in Solitude. This is an uncommon though for 1 and a red. Whenever any creature attacks alone, so they obviously pushed this card. It was like part of the Samurai and Warriors attacking alone, but then they're like, let's just make it more playable and have more uses. But anyways, the trigger is whenever a creature attacks alone, you get to exile the top card of your library, and you may play it this turn. So that's your value engine that kind of helps make up for the fact that you're only attacking with 1 creature. So you're never dealing that much damage each turn. But you get to chip in. They don't have good blocks because of your Subduer. And so you're making them chump or getting a good trade or just dealing them a little bit of damage. And then if you're drawing an extra card from Tempered in Solitude, then you're just slowly getting ahead of your opponent. The other card from this team and unfortunately it's in a 3rd color, but this is another common that I've slowly started to like more. It's still not like a really high pick or needs to be in every black deck or anything like that. But Nezumi Blade Blesser is really good in the Samurais attacking by themselves archetype, because if you have an enchantment, it gains menace, right? Yeah, it gains menace if you have an enchantment, which is pretty easy when you're the Samurai deck, because a bunch of the Samurai themselves are enchantments. And then if you have an artifact too, it has Death Touch. So now it's like, if this is your attacking alone thing, with 2 generic and a black for a 3/2 with these 2 conditional abilities. But if you manage to give it menace and Death Touch, it's always trading for 2 creatures unless they have like 2 first striking blockers, which doesn't happen that often in this format. So like you might be tapping down the creature they want to block with, and then they have to block with 2 other creatures, and you have Death Touch. So just a great little team there. And I've had some success with the Samurai strategy. You can kind of build it in any 2-color pair, but it gets the most value out of being Mardu, obviously.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot.
Cool.
Oh, I love this format. I just don't even know what to say about it.
It's very cool. I can't wait to keep playing it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying playing it. Yeah.
Like people have said that there are so many words on these cards, and there are, but they're all good. You know,
I mean, I think we talked about this last time, that there are a lot of words, but once you start like playing with them, a lot of stuff just falls into place and more easily makes sense than you might think by, like, I know that much has been made of like, oh, Kamigawa is, on word count, the wordiest Magic set ever or something. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I think I heard someone say that. Maybe they were exaggerating. But the point is, once you actually sit down with it, you're sort of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I get it. It lends itself very, as Ben Wheeler said, it lends itself very, very well to shorthand.
Yes.
And,
yeah. You got to read the cards. You got to know what the cards are. You got to know what's an enchantment, what's an artifact. You have to pay attention to all that. But it's yeah.
This is my favorite set in a very long time.
Yeah, this rules.
I want to close off talking about this limited format by acknowledging that although there are bombs, the games don't usually feel very like bomb oriented. Like with, between Tamiyo's Completion we talked about earlier, or the black enchantment Twisted Embrace, red has a bunch of good removal that's sort of flexible in how much damage it deals. White has the Intercessor's Arrest, and green even has Rabid Bite at instant speed. So there's lots of good common removal. You can usually have 1 or 2 ways in your deck to deal with their dragon or planeswalker if they manage to get one. So more than any other format I can remember in a long time, the thing that you're going to lose to is not your opponent having like one big scary bomb. It's just if their game plan and curve deploy perfectly, right? Like if they go spend all their mana and on creatures or synergistic plays, or like one spell that was a 2-for-1 because you blocked or something, and they just like spend all their mana in the first 6 turns. That's like the thing that I've run into the most commonly, that I'm just like, well, that's frustrating, but you gotta have something that's the best thing to do in the format. And I'd rather it was that. Like every time you're just like, well, you drafted a great deck, opponent, way to go. Like, I'm not stymied by one particular part of the design of the set or one card that I just couldn't beat. Like I don't think this format, as far as I can tell, has a pack rat or, an Umezawa's Jitte.
Not that I've seen so far.
Yeah,
there are some cards that make me groan a bit. But,
there's some better cards, but But like usually, if your opponent played one, you're only mad because you're already kind of losing, right? Yeah. Like you're behind, and you're like, okay, I think I stabilized, and then they're like, "Ayo," and you're
Like I've had an opponent play Ryu and lose that game very quickly, and I've had an opponent play Ryu that I've untapped and immediately killed, and it's like,
yeah,
all right. That's Magic, folks.
Yeah. Also, ward forever over hexproof. I love even when I lose to it. It's like ward 4 on a Mythic Blue Dragon. I'm like, well, I can't target that thing. Still feels better than losing to hexproof. Can't entirely explain why. I guess your mind goes, oh, if only I had 2 more lands, then I would have won. And it's like, that is a weird, like it's probably a fallacy of some kind.
Right.
I'm like tricking myself into feeling better, but
yeah, I mean, you can at least feel like, well, I didn't. It feels like there was something you could have done instead of being like, well, I guess I didn't draft a first striker with Death Touch.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah, like the feeling of I could have done something against a ward is just like present, versus hexproof. You're like, well, you finish and you get frustrated and don't know what you could have done better, because you maybe even have an edict in your deck. Like you've got Debt to the Kami, but they're going to have 1 extra creature, and so you couldn't build a better creature than they did on their Bogle.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. we don't need to talk about this for very long, but it's just sort of it ended up being kind of funny. There was a group of folks calling themselves MTG DAO, which, yeah, as a reminder, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization, which is if you have 2 hours and haven't watched the video from Dan Olson, aka Foldable Human, called "Line Goes Up," which explains a lot about cryptocurrency and NFTs and things. You should definitely watch it. He talks about DAOs a bit in that, and yeah, it's like a
like the term decentralized autonomous organization is so many syllables to mean nothing.
Yeah, because it's not decentralized; it's these people.
Yes, but
Right.
like what? It doesn't describe anything.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
Anyway, there's a group of people. They called themselves MTG DAO, and they came forward with a plan to make Magic the Gathering NFTs. And Wizards was like, don't? Like, Wizards actually sent them a surprisingly polite email, considering what I've heard about Wizards legal. And that was like, they were, I mean, surprisingly polite, but maybe also a little bit of kid gloves of like, hey, it looks like you might be trying to do a copyright fraud. I think you should not do that. We'd be happy to answer more questions about the ways that what you say you want to do is really illegal.
Mhm.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
We are not currently interested in selling Magic the Gathering to you.
Yeah, that was the best part, is that like in their statement of intent, the MTG DAO was like, if this all goes well, then I think we might just be able to buy the Magic brand. And it's like, no.
I mean, I could say that for many of my ventures,
Yeah.
right? The threshold for well is awfully high in that situation.
It's so powerful to think that, a group of people or a single person can like take their self-confidence and then like pressurize it into like a pump and then like plug that pump into their plan and then just like swell their own, like understanding, like their own reasoning of how, like their idea of how well everything is going to go to the size that is bigger than the company that they're trying to steal from. It's just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also like that Hasbro lawyers, you're just as you were saying just now, Graham, it's like Hasbro lawyers are so rich and powerful now that they can just afford Clippy. They've just got Clippy to do this email, right? Like,
Yeah.
You see that you're,
Yeah. Basically, they wanted to do some sort of system where like you could own your cards, but really own your cards, but in a different way. And yeah, the one second. This line from the Wizard's lawyer: "You appear to be operating under the mistaken assumption that the project would be legal."
Yeah, that's
that is a pretty great.
I saw people saying like, this is awfully like kid glove. Well, not kid glove. But this is like suspiciously gentle, and
Mhm.
this is just the way lawyers talk,
Yeah.
right? Like this in a courtroom would be like that gif of the kid in the rap battle, right? Like where he falls backwards and all his buddies catch him, and the one guy like,
Oh
slides
yeah,
across.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
So that was
pretty fantastic burn from Hasbro lawyers.
yeah. So that was very entertaining, and I kind of doubt that MTG DAO is going to go anywhere or do anything further.
But yeah,
And
did enjoy
I
their
think if they
tweet
try to,
saying
I think
that,
the next
or saying that Wizards is not going to make it using their acronym.
Oh God, right. Yeah. Just because they don't want to make NFTs of their stuff, that means that they're going to fail as a company.
Yep.
I suspect if they continue to try to do anything, the next email will be considerably more blunt. Sorry. It's the specifically the conversation of like from their own thread of like the God, their thread is long. I don't want to read this whole thing. I can't remember. Somewhere in here was basically like, look, I don't know a lot about copyright law. And it's like, yeah, I can tell. Anyway, so changing gears to a different sort of thing. So there's an investment group called Alta Fox, who owns 2.5% of Hasbro, which is a fair chunk. Like, it's not huge, but it's a big enough amount that you get to like you get to like talk to them and be like, hey, we would like to talk to you. They're an asset management firm, and they have started, I don't know, this is weird. They've started like this hashtag movement or something of like free the wizards. And Cedric Phillips actually put together a great thread without giving his sort of opinion on it of like, if you're confused, this is the state of things. They contend that under the current board, Hasbro's shares have underperformed and have traded at a sizable discount despite massive growth by their key brand, which is Wizards. Basically, Hasbro is doing okay to not great, and Wizards is doing very, very well.
From the shareholder perspective.
From the shareholder perspective, yeah, which is money. And so they want to untether Wizards from Hasbro because basically they think that Hasbro's they think Wizards is worse off for being a part of Hasbro, essentially.
Yeah. Hasbro, their argument is like Hasbro's leaving money on the table with the way that they're managing Wizards, right?
Yeah.
Close to that. Like Wizards could be gaining more money for their shareholders.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe that's the case. So they're, one of their big things is that they have they're nominating John Finkel to nominating. It hasn't been, I'm sure there's some sort of approval process, to a position of director on Hasbro's board, among other people. They've nominated several people, but John Finkel is the one that we would know, to be on the Hasbro board to advocate for the things that Alta Fox wants done differently with how they manage Wizards. And so it's just sort of it's a very public thing to be like, we've put together this website. It's an odd website. It's called Free the Wizards. And they've nominated these people for the board, and they're like, look, we only own 2.5% of this, but we think that you're doing it wrong and we want to do it better. And here's how we're going to do it. And we're going to do this by like basically stirring up a bunch of public support. Cause they're talking about like bringing back the pro scene. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, like I would like that personally. I would like that, but I don't actually know if that aligns with what they're saying. Right. Like, I feel like if the pro scene did make a huge amount of money, then that would have happened already. Also, there's a pandemic. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know if maybe they're just sort of in a holding pattern there, but it's like, I don't know. I kind of feel like, bring back pro level Magic, and would be responded to by Wizards going, yes, we've thought of that. Like, we have considered that. Thank you. So I don't know. It's an odd thing. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. God, these. Well, this isn't a grassroots thing, right? This is the opposite of it. But I'm always
AstroTurf.
Yeah. Well, I'm always very suspicious of these, even when I'm like, yeah, I broadly agree with what you're saying here, but I don't know. I don't know. This last decade, my adult life has trained me to be very wary of being enthusiastic about anything occurring at these strata.
It's worth noting that, like, we are not the target for this.
No.
Right? This Free the Wizards website, you can go read it if you want, but we are not the target. The target is other shareholders of Hasbro. Yes. Cuz like their big like thesis statement at the bottom of their, like, the case to repair Hasbro is, We believe that with the right board in place, Hasbro can unlock 100% in upside value and trade at a base price of over $200 per share by 2024. And it's like, oh, that's what you're fighting for.
Yeah, I guess this is what Magic sounds like to other people.
Right? Like that, all of the stuff that you've said affects me in zero way.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well,
this is not, this is not about players. This is not about, like your LGS or, cardboard print quality, right? This is about value to investors. This is such a I don't know. It's funny that it got the traction that it did, I guess, but like we as Magic players are like not the target demo for what Alta Fox is trying to whip up.
They're definitely the value to the shareholders. What's going to come first here if they're successful in getting John Finkel on the board and pushing their plan. But their website does mention things that are attractive sounding to players as well. Like they say ideas to improve both customer and shareholder value, and they list some things that some ways in which they could improve Arena, like strict improvements, and then they also mentioned some kind of in-person and online tournament structure. I think it's, as a player, it sounds like the ceiling of what could be happening here if they're successful is very good, but it's important to temper that any excitement you have with the fact that Hasbro is already trying to extract as much money out of us and give as much money to their shareholders as they can. And if Alta Vista manages to help them do that, sorry, Alta Fox.
Yeah, it's two.
I'm old,
right?
Yeah. It's Alta Vista Firefox.
Yes.
If Netscape Navigator and John Finkel manage to successfully improve the practice that Hasbro already wants, I don't think we should necessarily then suspect or believe that will result in a improved experience for players, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And frequently
it might.
It might. I mean, WotC making more money might improve the quality of their products, or it might not.
Yeah.
In
the case of
them being able to, I don't know, compensate their staff better and bring in more resources.
That'd be good.
Would be nice. Or it might just result in them absolutely strip mining everything and their player base for all they're worth.
Yeah. In the case of John Finkel specifically, I have no problem with him. Obviously, I think having one of the best and most successful professional Magic players ever on the board, helping make decisions and stuff like that, or steer direction, would be probably a good thing. But my sort of overall feeling about this is very much in the sort of let them fight kind of range, right? Just like, okay, you two sort this out. I'll be over here.
Yeah,
I
don't know.
I watch developments with interest.
I feel that we in the player base should be very wary of thinking of investors as allies.
Yes. I'm not interested in, because the last time I had this sort of let them fight feeling was the whole Apple versus Epic thing, where Epic was trying to turn their fans into PR.
Yes.
Right? And I am not interested in being used as leverage in a fight to make someone else money.
Nope. God, also...
I already have a job for that.
Yeah. Also, that entire lawsuit, a friend of mine tweeted out during that lawsuit of Apple versus Epic, where lawyers were just trying to define what a video game was in a court.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine tweeted out, they're just speaking forbidden words of power in there, sending shock waves through it. We've been trying to define this for 20 years critically, and they're a lawyer's just a video game is an interactive digital experience. It's no, I don't. Is it? I guess it is now.
No, it's not. You have to say it like this: interactive digital experience. experience.
Right, yeah, like Gandalf.
If you say Leviosa, then
right,
we'll do it. Yeah.
like Gandalf invoking the black speech of Mordor.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just a banana in a suit.
Speaking of casting spells and doing invocations, can we talk about casting fireballs and sonic booms?
Yeah.
What do you think? There's a new Secret Lair because, of course, we didn't talk about Secret Lairs for at least 1 week. So now there's like 50 more, except not really 50. Okay, the first one I'd like to describe is Secret Lair Drop Series times Street Fighter. Or Secret Lair X. Is it meant to be a multiplication? I don't know what this is.
Cross, because it's like a crossover, right?
Crossover. Universes Beyond, Secret Lair. And this is going to include 8 cards. If you played Street Fighter, you're going to be familiar. We've got Ehon. Sorry, let's start with Ryu, World Warrior. 2 generic and a white they're all legendary creatures, I think. Human Warrior 2/4 with training, so if it attacks with another large creature, it gets bigger. And Hadoken for 4 generic and a red, and untap Ryu, the untap symbol. We haven't seen since it's so cool. It's so amazing. You know, the most amazing part is if you haven't played Street Fighter, it's that to cast a Hadoken on your control, you make the untap symbol with the directional pad
down and roll forward.
You roll a quarter circle roll.
Everyone, by the way, every single one of these cards is beautifully designed.
Just a love letter to 1995. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to discard a card and untap Ryu and pay 5, and then Ryu will deal damage equal to his power to any target. But if excess damage was dealt to a creature, draw a card. So that's pretty cool. The Hadokens have trample now. We've got Ken, Burning Brawler, who, in Street Fighter, mechanically played the same way as Ryu. But we've got 1 generic red for a 4/2 Human Warrior with prowess now, so it gets larger from spells.
I love that Ryu is a 2/4 with training and Ken is a 4/2 with prowess.
Very cool. Training, like Ryu is always like standing there underneath the waterfall, punching it, trying harder and harder. So Ken can gain first strike for either side of a Boros mana. And Shoryuken, whenever Ken deals combat damage, you may cast a sorcery spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to the damage without paying its mana cost. So that's combat damage to a player or a creature, and that's a trigger that should still just work even if Ken trades off in combat. You'll still get to cast a spell with however much mana value. So that's pretty cool.
Before we move on too much further, I want to say overall, the reaction to this has been almost universally very positive, and a big part of that is that this is a Universes Beyond Secret Lair. So this is the crossing over with other IPs, but this is the first sort of really big one like this that we've had since it's been like really formally clear that it's like all of these cards will be reprinted mechanically they'll be reprinted in Magic way. I think it's like within 6 months or something. I don't know exactly what the timeline is supposed to be, but the point is,
sounds right.
These are all mechanically distinct, unique cards, and they will be reprinted in a non-Street Fighter way,
right?
In the future, and so these are just
so
kind of fun now.
This is 8 spoilers, I guess, from either New Capena or either the Dominaria sets probably coming up.
Yeah.
Should we keep going?
Yeah, sure.
We've got Blanca, Ferocious Fiend. Ferocious Friend. Friend. Well, he's looking fiendish in the art here. I put a lot of hours into mastering Blanca with my friends in grade 7.
Nice.
We've got 5 mana, 3 generic and a red green for a 5/5 haste. Love it. Rolling attack gives you whenever Blanca it has trample as long as you've cast 3 or more spells this turn. And the electric thunder is whenever Blanca becomes the target of a spell, he gets +2/+2 until end of turn and deals 2 damage to each opponent. Ooh, so kind of like a red-green heroic strategy, maybe. Chun-Li has multi-kicker. We already knew that was happening. Chun-Li is 1 generic, a 1 white, and 1 blue for a 3/3 multi-kicker Azorius mana. And when it enters the battlefield, exile up to X target instant cards from your graveyard, where X is the number of times Chun-Li was kicked, and put a kick counter on each of them in exile. But then, whenever Chun-Li attacks, copy each exiled card you own with a kick counter on it. You may cast the copies, but you have to spend mana. So, there's a lot of ways this can go, but probably the things that you've been doing with your feather deck, Chun-Li is interested in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very flavorful. Dalsim, Pliable Pacifist, is green-white and 2 generic. So 4 mana for a 1/3 reach. Get it? It has hexproof unless it's attacking. And whenever a creature you control with reach attacks, so it could be Dalsim, any other one too, untap it, and it can't be blocked by creatures with greater power of this combat. So that's like Skulk. And lastly, whenever one or more creatures you control deal damage to a player, draw a card. So can draw 1 card per combat damage step.
Probably, yeah.
But it's any creatures, so a lot of things going on with Dalsim. Really fun one. Guile is costs America and a generic, so one generic, 1 blue, 1 red, 1 white.
It's too perfect that Guile is red, white, and blue.
Yeah,
obviously that was on purpose. But
I had to do that, yeah. So a 4/4 that enters, whenever it enters or attacks, put a charge counter on it or remove one. When you remove a counter, choose one, either Sonic Boom, Guile deals 4 damage to any target, powerful, or Flash Kick, Guile gains lifelink and indestructible until end of turn. Mastering the Flash Kick was a lot of work, but even harder is trying to figure out how to perfectly grab your opponent when they're mid-air, and you could, like, Guile has like one of the best moves in the original game where he can like jump up and grab them if they're above you. Anyways, I can see this doing a lot of work in Commander.
Yeah.
Zangief is Jund and 2 generic, so 5 mana for a 7/4, must be blocked, and as long as it's your turn, Zangief has indestructible, powerful. And whenever Zangief deals damage to a creature, if that creature was dealt excess damage this turn, that creature's controller sacrifices a non-creature, non-land permanent. That's a lot of words. So basically, he has like the Abyss Trample. A non-creature, non-land can't hit their lands or their creatures. So it's kind of, that's sort of like dealing with their their enchantment artifact planeswalker permanents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, lastly, E Honda Sumo Champion,
who is attacking a car, by the way.
Yeah, that was the bonus round for extra points. You get to beat up a car between rounds in Street Fighter. Yeah. White, and 4 generic, so it's 6 mana for a 0/7. But as long as it's your turn, each creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. So just when it's your turn, you get that Doran effect. But also 100 Hand Slap. Whenever E Honda attacks up to 100 target creatures, each get +0/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand.
Clever.
And of course, on your turn, pumping your creature's toughness will also pump their power. So some pretty scary turns potentially if you're playing tokens with E Honda.
Very, very cool. Now there's a 9th secret card that they're revealing at some point. It's probably going to be out by the time this podcast is, and so people have been discussing. They're like, "Oh, what's it going to be?"
It's got to be M. Bison,
it's gotta
right?
be M. Bison.
So my money's on Akuma.
Yeah,
because Akuma was the original hidden character.
Oh, okay.
Because these are the original 8 playables, and then Akuma was the hidden character. But Bison makes sense also. There's a lot of options that could make sense.
Okay.
I don't know. Adam thought it'd be funny if it was Dan.
Just Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, just Dan. Good old Dan. But it's probably Bison or Honda. Bison or Akuma.
Adam actually is the person from LRR with the most recent actual Street Fighter experience, because Street Fighter, we played it in the 90s on our Super Nintendos, but it's continued on. It's like a live franchise, and they have, a new version from the last few years or something with a bunch of characters I've never seen before.
Yeah.
What if it was the saga of KMFDM's Ultra from the anime?
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Be amazing. So
deep cut.
Let's quickly just sort of talk through some of the other Secret Lairs. Those were the cards that were like totally brand new mechanically, so we don't need to go quite as deep on the other ones. But there's some very cool stuff. There's the Introducing Kaito Shizuki Secret Lair, which is 5 cards with new art, all from the same artist, Rorube, and all featuring Kaito. So this has Brain Freeze, Bribery, Snap, Unmask, looking very good, and Shadow of Doubt. And Nelson, you were saying before we went live that this one is actually like value-wise is pretty spicy.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't checked on Magic card prices lately, but last time I was selling cards, if you could get all 5 of these cards with some kind of special treatment, especially for $30, even just getting all 5 of these cards for $30 is a pretty good deal. Bribery and Shadow of Doubt and Unmask were all cards that were, in the case, a Yellow Jack. Those were like, I didn't put them in a binder. They were like in a sleeve with a price tag on it. So this one, I think, from among the available Secret Lairs right now is the one with like the most value. But that'll, depend on how many people buy it too, and how many other printings. I haven't noticed of Bribery. If Bribery's been in a bunch of stuff lately, I haven't kept up with my Commander decks. But this one looks like a good deal.
Cool.
If you've never Shadow of Doubted someone's fetch land,
it's 2 Dimir mana for players can't search libraries this turn. Also, you draw a card. There's one called Kamigawa Manga, which is 5 reprints with art from Ryu Kimei. And it's Idyllic Tutor, Swords to Plowshares, which are both of which feature, it looks like, the Wandering Emperor and Kaito as kids. Solve the Equation, Praetor's Grasp, and Veil of Summer.
They look really cool. This one's not a bad deal, too.
Yeah, those look very cool. There's one called Lil Walkers, featuring 5 Planeswalkers by Uta Natsumi. In sort of anime chibi style, and they're spectacular. Tamio the Moon Sage, Ajani Mentor of Heroes, Angrath the Flame Chained, Ashiok Dream Render, and Sorin Grim Nemesis. And these all look spectacular.
So cute.
Also, not sponsored. Though they have sponsored some of our Crack-a-Pack episodes, but Pinfinity is doing pins of these 5 designs as well, which is pretty exciting. This one I'm very excited about. Pictures of the Floating World. It's the Ukiyo-e land styles for the Hideaway lands. So Windbrisk Heights, not that you can tell from reading it unless you can read Japanese, Shelldock Isle, which is so good with the turtle, Howltooth Hollow, Spine Rock Knoll, and Mosswort Bridge. So these are the Lorwyn hideaway lands, but with the Ukiyo-e style, and they look phenomenal.
So good. Unfortunately, these cards have all been reprinted into Oblivion, so it's like you're not really getting your $30 back or whatever, but they're just gorgeous, and you're going to play them in your Commander decks.
Yeah. Shades Not Included is a series from I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce his name actually. Ben Schnuck, or Ben Makes Magic. He's a guy. I had seen these posted on the Magic subreddit some time ago. This is someone he's active on Reddit. He's active on Twitter. Does stuff with Magic, and now he gets a Secret Lair, and that's super cool. So it's just the basics: Plains, Island, Swamp, Mountain, Forest. But they're all in a very cool sort of vaporwave neon aesthetic, and they're really cool looking.
Yeah, you could maybe argue that you like some other basic lands more, but you can't argue that any other basic lands make you hear a synth bass line as clearly as these ones do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Ben. Gorgeous.
The showcase Neon Destiny, not Neon Dynasty, Neon Destiny. Again, that's the just to confuse things further, is 4 cards with the neon ink foil treatment from that one printing of Hidetsugu. So it's a very particular ink style. Anyway, the reprints of Ghostly Prison, Freed from the Real, Boseiju Who Shelters All, and Hall of the Bandit Lord.
It's probably an okay deal then too.
Yeah. And then finally, special guest Yoko Shimizu, which is 4 cards illustrated by Yoko Shimizu. Hokori Dust Drinker, pardon me. Kira, Great Glass Spinner. Eidolon of the Great Revel, looking real mad about it, and Elvish Spirit Guide. So just some really very pretty looking borderless cards there.
Yeah, I like these ones quite a lot, actually, even though I'm not sure what my use case for most of them would be.
Yeah.
There's a ton of beautiful cards in all these Secret Lairs. Yeah.
And there's the new, which I think we talked about it. There's the new astrology land. It's the Aquarius Islands. And I think the astrology lands are just available all year. I think.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely been around for several weeks now, so maybe they're just going to let these astrology lands stay up the whole year and just add to them.
So the February Super Drop is available for another 27 days at time of recording. So for once, it feels like you have plenty of time to get those if you're interested. And of course, they have their usual bundles where you can get all of them in foil, or all of them in non-foil, or all of them in both, and that's $430. But you can also just sort of pick and choose which things you want to get. So, yeah.
If you'd like to pick and choose which Magic cards you get to add to your collection, I recommend going over to cardkingdom.com/LRR, because they have really fast shipping. If you're in the States, you can get anything from their website. And if you're everywhere else, you only have to skip on sealed product that's in standard. And frankly, that's fine. Just buy singles. You can buy singles anywhere in the world. They're going to ship them uncomfortably quickly. And if you say loading ready to run, send me button, please, you even get to get a cute little 1-inch button that says, "Hi, Roll, I'm Dad."
Yeah. For those who've been asking, the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Nicknames podcast will be forthcoming. I know that we took Crimson Vow off, which was a shame, but a variety of factors, we just couldn't manage it. But hey, it's back now for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and if you want to submit your nicknames, the nicknames website will be live at the time that you hear this. That site will be lrr.cc/nicknames, and you can go there and submit your suggestions for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty nicknames, or upvote the ones that you like, and the most upvoted ones will be read out on the nicknames episode, which will be forthcoming in a couple weeks. So please go do that. There's already some ones I'm pretty excited about. So that I've heard. The site's not open yet, but just that I've heard floating around the community. So I'm looking forward to seeing them codified by the nickname of record. And of course, the show and everything we do is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon, patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. And thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. Until next time, I have been Graham, joined by Cameron and Nelson.
Also here.
Paul's been running tech. Heather gets these online. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.